Hello, hello. How y'all doing? This is hip hop. Y'all got to be better than that. How y'all doing? All right, there we go. There we go. There we go. You know, it's a cliche, but what I'm about to bring up really needs no introduction. But I'm gonna be a fan for a hot second. So I remember it was like 1998. This album had come out by the group Starr. It was called Moment of Truth. And I buy this tape, you know, as everybody bought the tape, and I'm playing it, and I realized that all of a sudden it disappeared. Like I had it, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, where did it go? Where did it go? I'm accusing friends of taking it, family members, like my cousins, of taking it. Come to find out my mom took it. But she took it because she was a fan of the beats that were on there. Okay, so, you know, she's listening to Al Green, she's listening to all this other stuff, but then she's like, oh yeah, this group Starr, I really like the production on it. Who did the beats? And I was like, oh yeah, DJ Premier did the beats. And so my mom indirectly, well maybe directly, was a DJ Premier fan for a long time. So I just, this is an honor for me. It's a full circle moment. I want y'all to please give it up for literally a legendary beat maker, producer, visionary, DJ Premier. All right. I wanted to save that story for up here.
Okay. And another thing, I just flew in from New York, so I didn't know we were both gonna have green on, but you know, it must have been meant for us to match in some type of way. So
there we go. There we go.
What's up, everybody?
Shout out.
Yeah, like he said, this is hip hop. You gotta
give me energy. We're not. This is not library time. This is real time. We ain't got to be quiet. You can be as noisy as you want, because I'm a noisy person. All right? All right?
All right.
There we go.
Sure, fans, how many beat makers do we have in here? We have, oh, okay, y'all about to get an education then. Okay. All right, here we go. Well, I wanted to start from the beginning, obviously, because a lot of people here, we have a lot of students too, I would imagine. Okay. So they may not know the background. So I wanted to start with your upbringing. Where are you from originally, and how did you get into music?
I was born in Houston, Texas. My father is a educator. He taught biology. My mother was a librarian and an art teacher. We moved out of Houston to a small town called Prairie View, where I actually went to college at Prairie View A&M University. It's a HBCU college. It wasn't called that back in my day. I'm 59 years old, so when I got my record deal, which I'm not gonna stay off course, but I've been in this game since I was 19 years old, and still doing it on a high level because I love what I do. You know, music doesn't have an age. You could do it as long as it's in your heart and your soul. You could do it all the time. So my upbringing with my parents, I have two older sisters. We have a really cool family, because with my mother teaching art, she used to paint in the house all the time, and she's the one with the record collection. So this is way before rap music even came out. So for me, you know, we're talking about like 1971, 72. I'm listening to the Jackson 5, you know, because that's when Michael still had the big nose and the brown skin and the afro. And we never saw a group that had kids that were doing all the dance moves and on every TV show, and you know, and we were just blown away by this group. And that stuff inspires you to say, man, I'd like to be on TV and everybody screaming for me and things of that nature. But not to the degree of where I pursued to do it yet. It was just wow, that looks fun. Anything that looked fun and interesting, I just wanted to do it. Same thing with sports. Everybody in my family loves sports. I played sports for a while, but music just overtook everything. And mainly, like I said, because of my mother, because she would paint every day with a brand new canvas, and she would always play different records, you know, and I'd look at the covers and look at the back and read. I didn't understand produced by, like, what does that mean? And she's like, who cares? Don't worry about all that stuff. When you grow up, you'll understand. But her choice of music was just so vast. And then you'd go to the neighbor's house and they had the same records. You know, it's like, wow, you got Aretha Franklin, or you got Al Green, you have T Connection, you have the Jackson 5, and then you go to another neighbor's house and they got the same records, and then y'all heard of Travis Scott? His father lived right across the street from me, and still did, well, not, he's married and had, obviously Travis is one of his kids now, but when I was a kid, his dad, lived with his parents, and actually Travis's grandmother was my English teacher. So like way before he got married and had his children, and before he was born, I was already hanging out with his dad, looking up to him because he was into music as well. See, when you see a guy that's a couple ages older than you, and he used to ride mini bikes, and I was really into motorcycles. I've had motorcycles when I was a kid, and he just inspired me to want to do everything, learn how to take things apart, learn how to, fix an engine, learn how to wire equipment, all of that stuff, just so because of the interesting way of how it all worked to make it, become sound and music. And then the records, I thought they were little toys because the labels were unique. Motown, Atlantic, it looked like it was a yo-yo. It had the ATL, I can spell, ATLANTIC, and at the bottom of it, it looked like a yo-yo. And when it spun, I was like, Mom, the yo-yo is spinning. She said, that's not a yo-yo. That's just the artwork they did. But all these things incorporated my thoughts to be like, I'm going to be something. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to be something. And that was the drive. And I'm talking real light to other elements of it, but I'm just kind of giving you the start of my upbringing and where I come from.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is so it wasn't just the music in and of itself, it was a community around music.
Absolutely. There was a lady named, her name was Mrs. Whiting, and my mom, she said, hey, Chris, my name is Chris, so back then it was, Chris, you want to come get a record? I was like, yeah. And then she said, okay, every day you can come get a record, and I'll give you a new record. I'd go over there, and only 45s, because I did, like I said, the little records were just fascinating. I kept going over there, I'd show Mom, look what Ms. Whiting gave me today.
Yeah.
Next day, look what Ms. Whiting gave me today. Then, I didn't know this, Ms. Whiting calls my mom and says, hey, I'm starting to run out of records to give him. What do I do? My mom says, I'll give you the same stack back, and he ain't gonna know the difference. She gives him the stack back that she gave me, and I'm coming to get a record. I come get a record, and Mom's like, what'd you get this time? I'm like, Mom, I think something's going on with her up here because she's giving me the same records I already got. And she was like, okay, this boy's gonna be smart in some type of way. So that ended that part, but it's a cool story. Shout out to Ms. Whiting, may she rest in peace. You know what I'm saying?
So was it all soul music? Because I read that you really deep into like soul music.
Yeah, I mean, in any black household, especially in the 70s, there was so much, and we called it soul. It wasn't called R&B. If you went to the record store to buy a record, they had rock, jazz. There was no disco yet. It was rock, jazz, soul. You know what I'm saying? And blues. No pop, no R&B, so the sounds of those records, which again exist to this very day, especially with streaming and all that you can find a lot of this stuff. I'm still a record collector because we come from that era, which I know you will elevate into in the conversation, but in regards to that was the thing that and my mother used to take me record shopping with her, so she'd be like, where you going? I'm going to the soul section, because the music was just so funky and just so deep. But then my sister was into rock, and she's older, so she was into she was into the Rolling Stones and the Who, but then she liked the more soft rock like Carly Simon and Joni Mitchell and the Eagles. So I'm starting to hear other styles, but they sounded dope. They sounded just as good. But my library in my head is starting to expand because I got my mother's style, and then all of us loved what our parents liked. And now with this generation gap we have now, I have a 13-year-old. He likes Glorilla. He likes Sexy Red. He likes Future. And sometimes he's like, that old school stuff. But when we were coming up, we loved everything our parents listened to. We never was like, that's old folks music.
Right.
We had no choice. It was the only music available.
Man, I'm really glad you brought that up because we were talking about that a little bit backstage, and I guess I'm trying to figure out why that is because I'm from that same. I'm a little bit younger than you, but it was that same thing where it's like I'm growing up and I had aunts, so my mom would play everything from like Madonna to she's playing The Cure, she's playing Journey, all of this. My grandmother's playing traditional gospel music, but then I had aunts that were playing funkadelic. They're playing Sly and the Family Stone, and so I'm taking all that in, and I'm like, this is dope. This doesn't sound like old folks music. But,
right.
But I'm trying to figure out where that gap happened.
I mean, honestly, I think the gap happened and it's not to knock streaming because obviously it's another way of how music is circulated around because even when I had my record contracts, it only said that our record deals are for vinyl, which is the vinyl records, cassette tapes, and CDs. Like even when maybe like 1983, maybe I was working at a record store in 1984, and they were putting in Billboard magazines and all this. There's a new thing coming out called the compact disc, otherwise known as the CD, and we're like, what is that? And, and it showed how little it was, and I was like, can you scratch on it? Which now you can.
Right.
They have CDJs, but not at that time. And I'm like, well, how are they gonna now have CDs for every album that I grew up on as a kid? They're gonna make all these on CDs now. So that was new. And same thing with my contract. Ours didn't have streaming in my contract. Now it's really there's no CDs anymore. Where some kids might go, what is a CD? And you're in your 20s and don't know what it is. But the access to the music, there's no excuse to not do your homework on music, especially if you're around people that really want to point you in the right direction of expanding your mental library, because we were kind of forced into it because there was no other way to get music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and even that, we used to write our names on the album. Like my sister would say Deborah Martin. My mother would put Pearl Martin. Mine says Chris Martin. My sister Ani put Andrea Martin, because it was to where you want people to know that's my album. Don't touch it, because I'm from the era of house parties. Obviously now you can go to a club and have fun. Our era, it was house parties, going to people's houses and dancing, and, making out with the girls, doing all that, trying to sneak off while the parents ain't around, and go around the back and do all the crazy stuff we want to do as teenagers and all that. But they were house parties. Later the club scene, and we had places to go to when I started to go to college on campus, to go to the Memorial Center. That was always where the parties were at. All the fraternities and sororities would throw parties at this place called the Newman Center that was by the church I went to. And that was another spot. And still the house parties were a big deal. Now that's kind of rare, and there's always fights at the house parties now, right, and things going crazy. But in our era, everybody had a house party, and it'd be packed to the bone. And even if your parents like, there better not be no drinking, you're going to sneak it in some type of way. I mean, we're kids. We want to have fun and break the rules a little bit. But all of that is what built the greatness of why I'm still here doing what I do.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that, because obviously we have a lot of, producers in here that are, just getting started. Or maybe you've done it for a few years, but I wanted to ask you, like, at what point did you get into? First of all, two-part question. At what point did you get into hip hop, and at what point did you get into DJing?
I got into hip hop around 1979, which really is the year when the first rap record officially came out. That was commercially huge. I mean, technically they say the first rap record ever is from a group called the Fatback Band. It's called King Tim III. But if you go back to my mom's era, when we used to watch all the TV shows, Ed Sullivan and Carol Burnett's show and Flip Wilson's show and stuff like that, there was a guy named Pigmeat Markham, and he used to do a skit called Here Come the Judge, and he would do it in a rap form to a drum beat. So that's technically the first, but King Tim III is noted as the first rap record. Obviously, Rapper's Delight is considered by the Sugar Hill Gang the first big hit rap record in 1979 because everybody knew the words. My mother didn't even like rap, and she's saying hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, and everybody knows the hip, the hop, the hippie to the hip, toppy, don't stop, the rocket to the bang, bang, boogie to the up, don't the boogie to the rhythm of the boogity beat. That everybody's saying that. Even if you didn't listen to any more rap records in your life, you knew that one. And if you come see me spend the night, I'm going to play that. But yeah, I was also blown away in two other ways. My mother's born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. My father's from Sumter, South Carolina. Every summer when we got out of school for the summer, our regular trip, which my sisters started to be like, well, I'm not doing this every summer. As they got older, I loved it. We're going to New York to visit my grandfather, who's my mom's dad. He lived in Brooklyn. Every summer, we drive to South Carolina, stay there for a little while to see my dad's family. Then we drive to Baltimore, where my mom is from, and see her family. Then we drive to New York, and that's the grand finale. And maybe like the third time I went there, and we're talking about 1977. This is before any rap records were out. I used to play pinball. Anybody remember pinball games? Might be too young for that too. Well, before the technology has expanded to video games of today, pinball machines were in gambling spots. They were in like even the toughest neighborhoods because a lot of people used to want to bet you I could beat you in a pinball game. I was very good at pinball, so I would always challenge people. I'd come in there with stacks of quarters, and it only cost a quarter to play when I was a kid. Come in with a stack of the quarters, and I didn't care if you was an older person, and a lot of people would stack quarters on the table, on the pool tables, saying this is my game for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 games. I'd go and be like, I'll take all your quarters and challenge you to one game and beat you, and I'd beat them. Now, when I got to New York, I was really hyped to play the New Yorkers because they're so more advanced than a country boy like me. I challenged them and won. And the place is called Playland. It's in Times Square, right where the ball drops for New Year's every year. Boom. I walk outside because it's time for us to go back to our hotel. And we stay at my grandfather's a couple of days, but we also had a hotel so we could do the running around the city and all that stuff. Man, I come outside and I see guys breakdancing, and the guy has a record player with a boom box. And again, they were called record players. They're called turntables now, but it was a record player. And he's going bigger, 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 bigger. And I'm sitting there staring like, what is this? Because for one, it's a record, which I'm fascinated by records. Yeah. Two, he's doing this and making this sound while the beat's playing on the boom box. And I'm like, whatever. And then they're popping and doing all this stuff and spinning on their back. We've never seen this yet. I go back home because it was about probably a couple days before school, and when you go back to school, at least in where I'm from, because now I'm probably about to go to junior high. The first day of school, you got to do what did you do this summer? Right. I'm explaining this thing with the rapper, the guy rapping with the mic and scratching, and everybody's like, that doesn't even make sense. It's almost like I saw a UFO, and they're like, you ain't see no flying saucer. I'm like, yes, I did. It was dudes spinning on their back, ticking their body, and a guy was rubbing the record. And then the other guys on the microphone going, yes, y'all, you don't stop. And I'm just like, what is this? We don't even know what's called rap or hip hop yet. I'm just like trying to explain, and they still are like, you're making that up. Circle and go back another year forward. I'm going back that year. Now rap is on. The Rapper's Delight is now the talk of the town. Everybody knows the record. The record's 15 minutes long. No one cared about the length of the song because now in the streaming world, your record better be just a minute and cut off, and that's it. Right. Everything's real short now. So a 15-minute record, you let the whole thing play, and the party did not stop until that music stopped. So for that, now I'm getting the hip hop bug. I didn't know it was called hip hop yet, and yet we were just saying rapping. And then they used to call the breakdancers the get down. Whenever the part where the favorite part of the record that came on, where a DJ takes 2 copies of that record and keeps repeating it so that you could just play that favorite part of a song, all of a sudden these guys start making a circle and it looks like a battle. So they used to call it the get down or going off, or he about to go off, or she's about to go off. Later it was labeled breaking, and if you talk to any people that are really affiliated with that, they like to be called breakers, not break dancers. They like to be called breakers. That's the proper term. If you say, "Yeah, you're a break dancer," they look at you like, "No, motherfucker, I'm a breaker." You know what I'm saying? So.
Now I read this interview from years back. You were talking to Chairman Mao. Shout out Mao.
Yeah, shout to Mao.
And you were saying that the first time that you visited New York, a man committed suicide on the train you were on.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the first time I went to New York,
Okay.
but it was one of the years we had been going and going and going, and now we're about to go back to Texas. And one of my best friends, their last name is Sowell. So the Sowells came to New York, and they stayed at the same hotel as us. So we're all going to be going back and doing our final shopping. And we get on the subway. We call it the train, or in hip hop we call it the Iron Horse. So if you ever hear that, it's like, oh, subway. So we're at our last stop that we're almost at our stop where we're gonna get off to go to our hotel, and the train just, like did a jerk, and it stops. But when it did the jerk, you felt the train go boom, boom, like that. We don't know what's going on, but it felt like a speed bump. And the guy finally comes on, because we're waiting for a long time in silence. We don't know what's going on, and we're kind of almost out of that tunnel, but that part of the front train was out of the tunnel. All of a sudden, the guy goes, "There's been a suicide." I swear I see this guy right now. He goes, "There's been a suicide on our train. Everybody has to get off in the front car and make a left." And we're like, a suicide? Because for me, I'm still a kid. I'm probably 13 now, but I'm just like, a suicide? So they said, "Look, we called the ambulance and the police. They're not here yet, so please try not to look to the right," because he said, "But we are gonna have to reverse the train a little bit to get off the body." So now it's boom, going backwards. Boom. We start having to, everybody single file line out like a fire drill. Everybody be careful. Of course, I want to look. And so as soon as I'm about to get off, I do and I could see his whole torso. It was cut in half, and his arm from the shoulder to the hand was all the way by the third rail of the track. The third rail is the part that can kill you. Like, you walk on the tracks, you're fine. You touch that third rail, they call it getting zapped. You're done. The arm is doing this by itself, the hands, the fingers, and but for me, I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
I was about to
I wait till I tell y'all what I did this summer, you know what I'm saying? Because
they ain't gonna believe that neither.
yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, fuck hip hop. Let's talk about this guy that killed himself. But for me, I was like, this is the city I want to be in, because of you just don't know. And even the days we would be riding on the train or just in a cab somewhere, people are stealing the tires off the bike and just walking with them. I was like, they steal in broad daylight. This is a city. And again, as a kid, it may be fascinating. I don't want y'all stealing my shit now. But back then, it was just so many things and elements of the city that I was like, this is where I want to live. And I think I want to do music. It was still just, I think I do. It wasn't where I was ready yet, but the thought was there that I'm going to start narrowing down my life of what my future is going to be.
That's fascinating, man, because I live in New York now, and anytime I get on the subway, I'm like, I got to move. And that made you want to move to New York. That's crazy. I had to ask that, but it's like, no, anytime I'm in New York now, it's like, no, let me drive and park. Yeah, you got to know, you got to know how to move around. It's still that serious. It's even crazier now. Like it's really crazy. And then people notice me, so I have to sometimes look, before I get out of the car, let me look around, okay? Because I may not have security with me or anything, and I got to look around, because if I'm in a neighborhood that's a little rough, because I need to make a stop, or I want to grab something to eat that's from the culture of how we eat,
Yeah, you know, people standing on the corner looking at you funny. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, shit's premiering." They'll give you love, but that love could turn into evil just that quick. But even with that, even I still wanted to be a part of that city.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you real quick. I mean, because I always like when I do talks like these, I like for the students to get something out of it, right? So talk about your practice as a DJ and a beat maker. Like, I would imagine. So you know, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and I get the sense that you never lost that love of like the daily practice, the daily digging for the records. If you could just talk to them a little bit about like how important it is for you to maintain that practice even as you're like established.
For me, everybody I looked up to, like I said, from the Jackson 5 to all the artists I said, Curtis Mayfield, Aretha Franklin, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. I mean, it was so many groups that were just so thorough and touched my soul and still do to this day. Then you go to the hip hop era, which now I'm losing my parents because now they're like, we don't understand that and we don't care to know it. But I'm like, okay, you don't have to. This is more now our generation of music. But now it's becoming a business where all the artists I'm looking up to, from like Biz Markie to Big Daddy Kane, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Run DMC, the first group to ever fill up a stadium and an arena with no radio play and sell it out and get the first multi-million-dollar deal with Adidas, which at that time $1 million ain't nothing now once you break it down, pay your taxes and what you're left with to have some fun and buy you something nice and maybe get a house and buy a nice car. It's all gone. Back then in 1986, to get $1 million was astronomically huge. You could probably call yourself a billionaire with $1 million because it was that big of a deal. So to see all of that happening before I didn't get my deal until 1988. So for me as a teenager, still just dreaming that now my dreams is I could do this, but I'm studying all the greats. Anybody that's a great in your line of work, I don't care if you make shoestrings. If you make shoestrings, you need to find out who's the best manufacturer, where are these people making theirs. It doesn't matter. Somebody made this table. The quality and the integrity of what you want to do is what makes you last in the game. If you're just doing it for a quick buck, you could do that, but I don't want to be known for a quick buck. I want to be known as an icon that's on that Mount Rushmore. When you look at the statue, my face is there forever and it can never be removed. That's how competitive I am. You have to be competitive. You have to desire to outwork everybody, even if it's your best friend. Because if you want to outwork your best friend and that's in the same line of work that you want to be in, he or she's going to want to do the same thing. Damn, he's doing the work. Let me get better. And then you got the ones that are just so lazy. And I'm a lazy person too. But my lazy I've earned because during the time that I wanted to make it, and when I moved to New York permanently, and I told my father I'm going to quit school and go, I was about to go into my senior year, and I actually did maybe like half the semester. I had a semester left to graduate. And I said, Dad, I got to go now because my gut, and you got to follow your gut. My gut's telling me go now and go to New York and try to audition, try to get a deal, try to meet the right people. And if you don't make it, you come back and finish school and you just regroup. But he was like, you don't have a plan. How are you going to go without a plan and go to New York where that city will eat you up? I'm like, I'm not scared of that because I'm a competitive guy, like the way you are with your students and the way you teach them and how they say, man, taking your class made me a better person when I graduated. I'm kind of like that same thing, just in a musical form and as a DJ and a producer. Same thing as DJing. I studied the greats. I looked at, we didn't have a lot of videos and everything to look at. There was some, but you got to remember, we didn't have cell phones and all the stuff where we could YouTube it now. You had to either be there, and I felt like I need to be there, and I'll just take the risk. It was worth taking the risk to make it because now I feel like I could be one of them. I have to go. I got there. I got to New York. I had 3 jobs. I was a counselor at this place called Young People's Day Camp. I had no experience, but they said, man, we're like 3 people short. And the guy that used to rap in my school with me, I had him come with me, and we got the job, and we used to rap to the kids. So now the kids liked us better. Like, these are the best counselors because y'all are boring. Because we were like more hip and cool to where they were like, we want to learn from them. I tell you what, maybe like 4 years, 5 years into my career when I finally became the DJ premier of Now, 2 of those kids saw me on the street one day at the MOP video for Annie Up. The shirts that they're wearing in the video, they started their own company, and they said we were the ones that motivated them when they were little kids at 12 and 13 years old, and now they've grown. Because now, fast forward to 1998 when I saw them again, and they were like, "Remember me? We were at Young People's Day Camp. You are our counselor." He said, "Those shirts they're wearing in the video is our company, and we have our new store." And I was just like, wow, and this one we didn't have a record deal. Just our energy and our drive and desire to be the next person made them want to be. And look, they're not rapping. They didn't go our route. They're doing clothing companies. But what we did to inspire them and our dream to make it inspired them to start their own company. And now they're still successful doing what they do. All of that has to be inside of you in order to make it. Same, like I said, with DJing, that's a big competition in my era. It's different now because with the laptops and all that, you could put 30,000 songs in your computer and just throw on a song and do this, and everybody's rocking because you have it. In my era, you had to buy the record, and then we used to cover the label with marks and pieces of tape. So if you playing a hot new record, people come up to the table and try to look at it so that they can find out what it is and buy it, and we don't want you to know what it is. So now you're looking at it, and it's like, haha, you don't know what the record is because I cover it with tape. And rest in peace to DJ AM. DJ AM is a DJ who passed away several years ago. That when Serato came out, anybody familiar with Serato? When Serato came out, he didn't like people coming up to the table to read his computer like if they didn't know a record. He created the AM function where you go where the tempo is and just type AM. It still works on the Serato. I don't know if it does on Serato DJ, but in Scratch Live, you type AM and it disappears. So now you can't see what the record is, and then when you want it to reappear, type AM again and it reappears. And that was such a dope function because that's how much he doesn't want everybody because people would stand behind you, write it down, and then go to the record store and get that record. And then you go to the next party and they're playing the hot stuff. And now you may not get the job because he got the hot record. It's like, no. Don't let them know what it is. That's how much of a competition that it still is with us. I'm like that to this very day, even with my computer. I'm still just like, I dim the lights when I spin, if people are on the stage and just kind of standing by me, especially if I play a record that's rare and they're like, ooh, and they make the face like, what is that? You're not going to know because I'm going to darken it. Can't see that, can you? I'm still like, I have to have the hottest shit more than you because that's what's going to make me not only get the gigs, but people are going to always say when he DJs, he always comes with something that's just new and fresh that the other people are not having. So anytime he rocks a party, I'm going to it. And that's what keeps you in the game. Now, when it came to producing, I started to learn that a producer in hip hop, you have to make the music and all the elements that make the rapper want to rap to it. So you have to be creative in your mind on collaborating with the artist. And I've worked with people from Janet Jackson to Drake. When Drake did the Scorpion album, he reached out to me just out of nowhere and said, "Hey, I got a record called Sandra's Rose. It's about my mom. Can you make something with that type of a vibe?" And shout to Manish, who has these things called sample packs where they make different sounds and then people like me might produce a track out of it. Made it for him. I gave it to him probably like around maybe midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I went to bed. I woke up around 5 a.m. and there was a text from him and 40. and they're showing the Pro Tools on the screen, playing the record like he had already recorded it. I was like, I made it on the album. And then Drake puts on his IG story an old picture of me from a Nas session with a little scorpion on my jacket. So I was like, okay. And he didn't say you made the album, but that was proof. Like, okay, I'm on it. And then we handled the business, and now I'm millions and millions of more streams richer.
Shout out to that, man. Give it up for that.
Yeah.
And now, so before Gangstar, you were in another group. You started another group, right? Inner Circle.
Well, when we were in college, this is when I was even scared to even get a record deal. I was still in just doing it for fun on campus, because we were really known on campus for doing all the parties. We did all the step shows. And my MC, his name was Top Ski, funny guy. And at that time, since my name is Chris, I was Wax Master C, because the vinyl is made out of wax, and we call it wax as a slang. So I wanted to be. I didn't want to be Grandmaster. I didn't want to be Jam Master, because we call that biting. If you take a name and it's too similar to somebody else. In my era, we actually got into a lot of fights. If somebody bit your name or a style of your rap, you would actually get approached at a club and they'd go, hey, man, you bit my style. And somebody will punch you in the face over something that's too similar to what their original name was. So that's how much we had to really diversify our position and get respected for it. So it was really that deep in my era. You know, now you could have 20 groups that all sound the same, and everybody's saying it's a hit. I remember the other day, this past weekend, I'm taking my son to baseball practice, and he's playing a record. I'm like, yo, is that the new Future? And he goes, no, that's such and such. And I'm like, damn, he sounds like Future. And he goes, yeah, but it's not. I'm like, yeah, but he sounds like Future. He's like, but it's not, Dad. I'm like, but he sounds like Future. So off the first listen, doesn't he say he does sound like him, but it's not him. But I said, son, if that guy had come out in my era, Future would have stepped in and said, you sound like my record, pow, and slap him. You know what I'm saying? So that's the difference between wanting to be your own individual lane and then copying a lane just because it's working for everybody else. I don't want to be in the lane that's working for everybody else, because everybody's going to look at me as a copycat, and I don't want to copy. I want you to say, that's Premier when I hear it. That's Drake when I hear it. That's Future when I hear it. That's Janet Jackson when I hear it. That's Christina Aguilera when I hear it. You know what I'm saying? That's Madonna when I hear it. You want to individualize whatever it is you do, and it don't have to just be music. Like I said, somebody made those laces for those ones. Somebody made these laces for these Clarks. But when they make them, they know that they're not the same. Right. Your laces look nothing like these, and the quality and integrity of your name being that's why Polo and Calvin Klein and Balenciaga and all that stuff is still around after all these years. Gucci's still around. Louis Vuitton's still around. Nike's still around. They really, really put their all into the brand. And again, it doesn't have to just be music. It doesn't have to just be production. You could be an engineer. You could be just a person that drives and test drives all the hot cars that come out. Somebody's got to do it, but they're doing it for the integrity. Look how many Teslas on the road now. I remember it used to just be like, oh, there goes a Tesla.
Right, it was the thing.
Now, every other car, there's a Tesla on the road. Yeah. It got built and built and built, and then the integrity got so much that everybody's starting to switch into electric cars. I'm still not there. I like gasoline. I want to hear my engine roar. But, you know, Chevrolet's not going nowhere. Ford's not going nowhere. And if they have to convert to electric cars, they're going to do it when they really have no choice. But the name and the brand is still going to say Ford, and that logo is still the same. Chevy has never changed their logo, and Ford has never changed their logo. You know, the Gangstar brand label, if you look it up, that logo is so popular. Shout to A$AP Ferg, too. He's doing a documentary called Logos, and it's about all the hot logos in our industry, in hip-hop and music, because there's so many unique logos in the music field that should be talked about, like who created it, why, and not only that, when people see it, oh, man, I've always loved your logo. Our logo does so well that even on a bad day of money coming in, the logo, people still buy it on my website just to have a T-shirt because that logo stands out that much ever since 1986. You know, I wasn't in the group then. I joined the group in '88, but we carried it, we updated it, and we've never changed it, and it still sells to this day. It actually pays our rent on a day that if I have nothing coming in, no work, no nothing, just my logo of my brand still makes that much money without us lifting a finger. That's integrity. That's what you want to be. Everybody should want to be that way. And stay competitive. That doesn't mean that you're an asshole, because competition comes with you being a little bit of a cocky person, but you don't have to show it. You can be cocky inside and just be in the bathroom by yourself going, I'm a bad motherfucker, you know. But when you go out to everybody else, hey everybody, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? But inside, I'm a bad motherfucker, you know. So that's what you carry. I was always a shy person. You would never catch me talking this much to y'all, but I had to learn to even speak up. It's like, if I didn't do that, I'm still telling my son now, when you're ordering the food, you know, I'm like, yo, speak up, because you have to deliver yourself a certain way. And then there's a time to chill and be quiet and low key. And there's a time you got to speak up and let your presence be felt. You have to be felt by the people that you're trying to connect to, and that's how you'll definitely make it. I don't care if 40,000 doors close in your face. You're going to get a door that's going to open and let you in, and you better not mess it up, because that opportunity may be the one that turns you into one of the biggest next big thing in the world.
Y'all heard that, right? Y'all got all that? Okay, all right. I'm just making sure now. I can't help but not be a professor. I always gotta make sure the students heard it. But anyway,
absolutely.
I'm sorry. Don't mind me. All right, I got to be a fan for a second, man. I need to ask about the formation of Gang Starr.
Okay.
All right. So we talked a little bit about your first group, but how did that lead to the formation of Gang Starr?
Okay. Well, when I was in college, like I said, my MC. There's rappers and there's MCs. Rappers can rap. I'm an MC because I'm talking to y'all, which is a master of ceremony. So I'm speaking to you to have your attention when I talk to you. So that's an MC. But good rappers that are dope can rap good, and they can talk to the crowd, you know. So they can go from doing the hot record that you love, the record could cut off, and it's like, hey, how y'all doing? Yeah. And it's like, you know, how are they going to hold your attention before they go on to the next record? That's an MC. So my MC, Top, we had another MC named Sugar Pop. He was from Dallas. We all were college buddies. And then we had a guy that was like Flavor Flav in our group. His name was Stylie T. He acted like Flav. And I know y'all know who Flavor Flav is from Public Enemy. And that was our group. We were called MCs in Control. Later on, for some stupid reason, they changed it to the Inner Circle Posse, which I never liked. And then we found out there's a reggae group called Inner Circle who still exists to this day. And I'm like, see, now we have the same name as them, and they're gonna step to us for biting, and then we're gonna have a problem. And you know, so it was short-lived. We all went to New York together to try to get a record deal. It did not work out. Top was the only one that stayed in New York. The other ones couldn't really stay. We didn't have enough money. Top said, if we don't have a record deal in the next month, from every door closing in our face, I'm going into the military. And I was like, all the partying and crazy stuff you do, you're going to the military? No way. And about a week, maybe 2 weeks later, because we were all living together at one of our buddies we went to college with, their parents said, as long as you're working, you can stay here, but during the day, we're locking the house out the house, because you got to have a job or just not be in our house. When we're home from work, y'all can all stay in the basement. That Saturday morning, the recruiting officer came to the door. I opened the door, and he says, yeah, we're looking for Theodore Campbell. And I was like, for what? He said, today is his day. I'm like, what day? He said, he joined the Navy. I yelled down to the basement, yo, Top. He comes upstairs with his bags packed. He didn't even tell me, hey, I'm leaving tomorrow. With his bags packed, and he's like, yo, I'm out. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? I don't have anybody. He said, years. I said, how long you enlist for? He said, 4 years. I said, I'm not waiting 4 years. Gang Starr was originated in Boston. They're all Boston-based members. There's two guys, Guru, who at that time, his name is Keith Elam. His rap name at that time was Keithy EMC, because Keith is his first name, Elam, and MC, because he was more than just a rapper. So he was Keithy EMC. He had a partner named Sugar Bear at the time, but he's named, we call him Big Suge, not to be confused with Suge Knight. Big Suge was more in the streets. He was a drug dealer. He was just a singer, and he was just a wild guy in the streets. But he and Keith were really, really good friends. And everybody at that time, everybody wanted to rap. You could suck, but everybody wanted to rap. It was like, this is my way to make money and be rich for life with this rap thing, but it's not like that. But we thought it was.
Yeah.
They formed, Keith went to college in Morehouse, and Suge went down there to sell weed and not be a student, but he made not only a reputation, he started to build a rapport with all the students where they started to like him as just a cool dude, and they came up with the name Gang Starr out there because Suge wanted the group to be called Gangsters, and at that time in the early 80s, that wasn't really cool yet to do all the gangster rap stuff. It hadn't really developed there yet, so they were like, let's change it to Gang Starr, because it's almost like the logo is going to be a star with a chain around it. The chain is what bonds all of us together, and the star is all the talent, within it, and that'll be what Gang Starr stands for. And then he said it represents three things: street knowledge, intellectual knowledge, and spirituality. And he called it a survival package. And that's what we still go off of, because you should have a little bit of that in your DNA. That doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, but you got to have intellect. You got to know how to read. You got to know how to do the basic stuff, write, count, stuff like that. But you also got to know your surroundings. Know there's crazy people out there, and you got to be aware and look around and just people surround you. And that's called being on point. That's not being paranoid. And then the spiritual side, you have to have some belief. You don't have to believe that God is in the sky or anything like that. But if you do, that's fine if it keeps you in a level of sanity where you don't just lose your mind and flip out and go crazy, because you can go crazy. There's times I've wanted to go crazy, and I'm like, and I'll talk myself down like, no, that ain't me. Calm down, get back on point. I'll be right back on point right after that. That part is what built the original Gang Starr. Now, I call it 3 generations, because that's the original generation. Later on, Suge got arrested and went for drug dealing. He went to prison for almost 5 years. While he was gone, now Keithy E changed his name to Keithy E the Guru. And when he changed his name, he took on 2 more partners in the group. When he took them on, they didn't want to move to New York to try to make the group grow. And they got a record deal with an independent label called Wild Pitch Records. It was a husband and wife company, and the wife did all the artwork. The husband was the guy that had the ear to music and did all the legwork, the marketing and everything. They signed Gang Starr. Keith would always go to their house to look in the shoebox that he would always have demo tapes that were getting sent to him. I currently, at the time, right before I permanently was in New York, was going back and forth to college and still trying to shop my deal. I got a job at a record store in Houston. It was one of the most popular record stores in Houston that to this day is well known. It's called Soundwaves. A buddy of mine, I didn't want to do this, but I did in this era of before I permanently moved. The records that I was buying so that I could rock parties at my college, the price stickers were easy to peel off. So if the singles were $5.99, I would see some that are like $3.99, and I would peel them off and stick the $3.99 tag on there. And the guy's name is Carlos Garza. Carlos sees me doing it, but he's watching me like, I'm gonna catch these guys. I get a stack of records because now and they're not $5.99, they're $3. Some of them are $1.99. I'm peeling them off. They were just that easy to peel off. I get to the counter to ring them up. He's going, hey man, these ain't $1.99 and $3.99, and I'm trying to act cocky. Man, whatever's on the price is what I'm paying, and that's that. And he's like, no, because I'm the one that I know what this is $3.99, this is $5.99, and I'm like, well, I want to speak to the manager. He's like, I'm the manager, and I'm like, he's like, either buy them or don't buy them. I was like, well, take all these back, and I left. I come back a different day. And he sees me, and he's like, yo, man, you gonna do that, try to change the price shit again? And I was like, you know what, man, my fault. But look, I didn't walk out with anything. What's your name? We started talking. I told him I want to go to New York and get a record deal. But I said, but it's gonna be tough. He ends up saying, hey, man, this is right when hip-hop started to become they started a Billboard magazine, started a hip-hop chart. He was the Billboard reporter for Texas. He said, I'm going to tell, when all the labels call to check what's selling and moving in Texas, I'm going to mention that you're coming up to try to get a deal. He told the owner of Wild Pitch that had signed Gang Starr that I was trying to get a deal. He said, send me his demo tape. They sent the demo tape to him. He listened to it. Guru went through the box and listened to it and said, whoever this guy is, he needs a deal. He said, I don't like his rapper. That's the one that went to the Navy, so he's gone already. He said, I want him. Once my MC left and went to the Navy for 4 years, I said, I'll join the group. They signed me to Gang Starr, and that's how I got in. So I feel like that's the third generation, which is the final generation, because the other members, like I said, they didn't want it like I did. They were like, when there's a show and there's some money, we'll come to New York. No, stick it out and struggle. Stick it out and struggle. Man, there was days I couldn't pay my rent, and even with my jobs that I had, we had a girl that sublet an apartment to us, and she was on drugs, and we'd give her the money to pay our rent since it was under her name.
She was doing drugs and smoking up all the money. So now we're 4 months behind in our rent, and we didn't know. And then we see her one day, and she's all drugged out in the middle of the street, and we're like, where's our fucking money? And she's like, fuck you, I spent it on drugs, fuck you, and now I'm moving to California, I'm gonna buy more drugs. And we're like, she's crazy. So we get, the next day we get to the apartment, and she's like, you gotta get out, and I'm moving. They padlocked our apartment with a big lock. This lock had to be as big as all of our shoes combined. And now we can't get in there, but the super knew about us trying to get a record deal because his son was friends of ours. And he's like, hey, look, I'll take the lock off, but if y'all can't come up with the money in about 5 to 7 days, they're going to padlock it and give the apartment to somebody else. And I just found a way to make some money. I got another job. And then we were able to pay it off in installments. And then from there, Spike Lee heard a record that we did called Jazz Music, I'm sorry. And when he heard it, he was shooting a movie with Denzel Washington and Wesley Snipes called Mo Better Blues. Just from hearing that one song, he reached out to us and said, hey, I'd like y'all to do a record for my movie. And it pays $50,000, So for us, we thought we were rich to get $50,000 and we're broke, and we're still trying to pay 4 months behind in rent. We got the deal for the movie. If you look up Mo Better Blues, you'll see the song is on there. We met Branford Marsalis, who's one of the most renowned jazz artists in the world. He helped us create the song. Then they did a video to it, and Spike was like, the version y'all did with Branford's a little too expanded for the video version. I said, well, I have the original demo version I did by myself where it's a lot more simple. He said, let me hear it. He said, that's the version we're going to go with. We shot the video. If you ever look it up, Gang Starr Jazz Thing, because Jazz Music was on our album. This one's called Jazz Thing. That became a video, and I get one from Spike Lee back in 1990. From there, a guy named Duff Marlowe discovered us and gave us a deal with Chrysalis Records, and that's when we finally got our first payday. We were able to move out, get our first house, and our first 2 cars each, and then it never went down. From 1990,
my career's gone, and it didn't go from here to here. It was just like this, but it got better and better and better and better and better and better, and it stayed that way, and it still stays that way. There's days things may be slow, but I'm never worried about what am I going to do to still survive. And then the passion is still there from the days of all that I'm telling you to where I am now, where the phone rings, the emails come in. We want Premiere for this. We want Premiere. Even this, they said we want Premiere for this. They described what it was. I was like, yo, yeah, I'll do that. And I'm here to give you the same game and any questions you need answered because I'm living it. I'm proof of it. And like I said, I was 19 going on 20 when I signed my deal. I'm 59 as of Friday. I just turned 59 Friday, and I'll be 60 next year, and I still have a lot of stuff that's about to come out. So
shout out, man. Shout out. And before I move forward, I want to remind you all, if you have questions, to put them in the app, and we'll ask them at the end. We'll have a little bit of Q&A. And but I also wanted to ask you too, just as a student of hip hop and just growing up in hip hop, like the thing I always appreciated about Guru and appreciated about Gang Starr is that it sounded different. Like when I would listen to Guru, like everybody else would like yell at you. You know what I mean? Everybody else is like gonna scream at you on the mic, and Guru's like he's
monotone style.
Monotone.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just my read of it. But what was your impression of Guru when you heard him, and or how and also how did his style evolve over the years?
For me, being that I'm a producer, everything is by ear. You gotta have a unique voice because your voice is what makes you stand out. To this day, if I hear Mick Jagger's voice, I know it's him just from the way he sings, the tone. If I hear, I'm a big Rush fan. So the bass player and the lead singer's name is Geddy Lee, and he sounds like a witch, but a good witch, you know what I'm saying? But his voice, I've never heard anybody in the entire world in rock sound like Geddy Lee. And to see him play the bass, screaming on the mic, and then playing bass pads with his feet and hopping around the stage with Alex, and rest in peace to Neil Peart, the drummer. He died from brain cancer. But I went to so many of their concerts just to see if the same feeling would be given to me live, because that's another thing too. In my world, making records is one phase of it because you can always fix it in the studio. You can mess up, you could sing it out of key, you could just re-record it. Hey, let's re-record that line right there. Okay, hey, your voice squeaked right there. Fix that line. Fixed. Now, when y'all hear it, when the record comes out, it sounds flawless. But when you're on that stage, can you play live? If you can play live, you are in, because that's where it's all gonna come out, to where your integrity lies. Because I used to be good on the turntables live, but I was not good on the microphone. So I stayed quiet, played my position. We had a hype man, and then Guru was good on stage. But as the times moved forward, one of the members of another group called MOP, who we're big fans of, and they're real good live, they were like, man, you need to be on the mic and start backing Guru up instead of your hype man, because he's cool, but that's your tour manager. You don't need him up there. Get him off the stage. And I finally, I was talking a little bit, but then we got invited to open up for Rage Against the Machine in 1999 on the Battle of Los Angeles tour. And we used to watch them perform, and seeing Zach scream and look like he's catching a convulsion. And you could tell it wasn't fake. The music is driving him nuts to get it out. And then the mosh pit is insane because they're feeling it. Maybe 5 days into that show, because we were out for a month, I finally started yelling, and because I felt like saying things, I was just too scared to do it. I said, you know what? the fifth show, I'm gonna go ahead and start talking some shit. And it was from the heart. And I was like, aren't you tired of such and such and such? And they're going, yeah. I'm like, wow, this shit's working. I'm like, well, aren't you there? You know, I'm like, what else can I say? You know, and I started to really let it out from the heart. And the crowd's just, now the mosh pit's going crazy when we drop another record. And I remember Zach and them was like, that's how you do it. When we walking off stage, they was like, that's how you do it. And from that point, now I have no fear. Like I said, you would never hear me talking to y'all like this years ago. And like even 1998, I was still afraid to speak, you know. Even though I want to speak, I would have been like, hey, everybody, how y'all doing? That's how I would have been talking to y'all. But I'm good now. And all of that is from studying, like watching a group that invited us on tour tear that place up. I'm like, we're not going to win if we don't turn it up to their level. And that's studying. I sit on the side of the stage and just watch them. I watch the timing. I watch how they ended the show, how they even looked at each other and nodded, and then the next song comes on. I'm like, we got to change the timing. These songs aren't working for this crowd. Let's do these records. They're more aggressive. They're more this way, and they worked. So you have to really, really study. You never stop doing your homework. You're never too old to learn something from somebody younger. And younger people are never too young to learn from somebody older. You know, it works hand in hand. But you got to take it seriously in whatever you choose to do. And I said it earlier, it will work. You know, if you believe it. If you don't believe it and you're still wondering, I wonder if, that wonder if could take the rest of your life, and you're wasting time. And start early. My nephew is in the music business, and I want to help him. He's younger, and he's going to bed 4 in the morning. I'm a father with a 13-year-old. I go to bed at 4 in the morning. I'm up by 6:30 to take him to school. So if I could do it, a 20-year-old, well, he's 30 now, but you can't sleep past. Sometimes I'll call him, and my sister's like, "Oh, he's in bed. You know, he was up late working on music." I'm like, "But it's 2:00 in the afternoon." He said, "Yeah, well, he was up late working on music." Okay, in our business, by noon and lunchtime, everything's done.
Right.
You're not going to get in touch with anybody that you're trying to get in touch with that have the power to get you to the next level in this business. You got to be up bright and early and get after the bag. And you got to be ready to play. And if you're not, stay away from it until you are ready, because you're in our way and you're in my way. So, you know, move. And then when you're ready, I'm going to see you at the top, because staying at the top is a beautiful thing. I know people say, "Oh, you're not gonna be at the top all your life. You're gonna get knocked down." That's not what I mean. Be at the highest level of your craft, where no matter what you choose to do, and that's how you stay at the top in that lane. There's different lanes of being at the top. Yeah, it's just like how there's a debate about Drake's finally met his time where he's starting to decline because of Kendrick. You can't say that, because they both do music. They both have audiences. And at the end of the day, we're both doing what we love. So, and it's competition still. So let the competition keep on competing. Or let the competition keep competitioning.
Man, I'm gonna ask you one more question, and I'm gonna get to the audience Q&A.
Right.
So, you know, obviously, you know, like you said throughout this conversation, and I hear it too. I get the music sent to me. You're still very much putting out your best work. You know, but obviously you like you even said backstage, like you've been doing this 30 years. What would you say is your legacy in music?
My legacy in music is really to force a change in the garbage that comes out, because there's going to always be garbage that comes out in anything you do, not just in music and anything. There's going to always be garbage. But you want to force a change to be recognized for having it be timeless. It can stand in any era, from a baby to the person that's 102 years old. You want to be able to have timeless stuff that can never ever be taken down. You know, like the way they retire jerseys at the games, at the basketball games, and hanging them up in the rafters. my shit's got to be up in the rafters just like that. But the only difference is you can still play it at any given time. It's not hard to find, and if you can't find it, find somebody that can find me, and I'll find it for you.
Right on, man. All right. Well, before we get into the Q&A, please give it up for the legend here, DJ Premier.
Thank you.
And so, all right. Got a few. This is a good question. So what was your I made it moment? This from Stephanie Thompson. Shout out Stephanie Thompson.
Hey, Stephanie.
My I made it moment happened around 1992. I looked up to a guy, an MC named KRS-One. He's from a group called Boogie Down Productions. We called it BDP for short. D Nice comes from that group when he was a little teenager, and now look how big D Nice is after the when we were going through the pandemic. He did Club Quarantine and started just playing music on live, and now he's doing concerts and tours called Club Quarantine. It's called CQ. And I'm so happy for him because I knew him when he was a teenager all the way to now. He's made a whole new staple where it made everybody else say, I'm going live on my IG and all this stuff, copying and biting. And but he just did it on a thought of, how can I entertain everybody since we're in the house and we can't go anywhere?
Right.
So KRS-One is one of the people I looked up to highly. I never met him. I saw him one day in a record store when my first single came out in 1989 with Gang Starr called Words I Manifest. We go to this store called Music Factory. It's the store to go to if you're a DJ back then. KRS is in the store. All the hot records on the wall. And he's very, very, very arrogant, but that's what makes him great. He's looking there, and we're like, there goes KRS-One. He's over there. And we're being quiet, just watching him. He's going, I have that. 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 Just talking to himself. And then he sees our record. He goes, oh, Gang Starr. Don't have that. And we're like, oh, my God, this motherfucker knows who we are. Because our picture's on the cover. And he's grabbing a couple other ones, and then he's about to go to the counter to pay for the records. And we go up to him, hey, Karis, we're Gang Starr. You bought our record. He goes, yeah, I see you. I see you. Hey, just do me a favor. Don't ever be whack. I'm out of here. Peace. And just walks out. And for us, we were like, oh, my God, did you see what, but that was a big deal. Now, fast forward to 1992, I get a call from my manager, and he's like, hey, KRS-One wants to work with you on a new album project. And I'm like, me? That's like me? He said, yes, he wants to do a project. We're going to get on the phone. And, there was no other way to patch in and doing all this three-way and all this stuff. They patched in the phone call from what do you call it? The switchboard at the record label, because now he was on Jive Records, and he says, I want to do this record album called Return of the Boom Bap. I want you to do 90% of it. And I was like, this is it. The opportunity's there. And I wasn't nervous or nothing. I was like, let's go. And it's one of the biggest albums ever in history. If you look it up, Return of the Boom Bap by KRS-One. And that was like, Idol just reached out to me to work with him. Yeah, I made it. I'm good. 1992 is a great year.
Shout out, man. All right. Now, this is a good one, too. So as a producer, how do you distinguish good intentions versus bad as far as working with collaborators and artists?
It's tricky, depending on who you work with. Have you heard of Doechii?
Oh, yeah.
She just reached out to want to work with me, and I'm a fan of her music, and she said, I want to work with Premier. They got me on the phone with her. This is probably about a month ago, and she was like, "Man, I love this," and she's naming all my songs that I've worked on. So she's like, "And when you did this and when you did that," so you could tell she really did her homework on me. And she was like, "I'm in the middle of getting ready to go on tour, but I want to just get some vibes going. Can you give me just some vibes?" Now me, my whole career, this is the only way I know. My whole career was send the artist to me. It's like going to a restaurant. I'll have the such and such and such and such, and they make it for you and bring you the food freshly cooked. That's what all I know. Come meet me. Let's talk about what kind of song you want to do. What ideas do you have? Because sometimes the artist will say, "Oh, I want to do a song about losing my boyfriend," but then we got back together and then we got married, and we're okay, cool. I can make the music match that whole description of what you want. This is the crazy thing. With her, she said, I'm all over the place right now with the vibes that I'm coming with, but can you just make me maybe like 5 or 6 things to just work with? And I was like, that's not my way, but that's cool. I'll give you a couple of variety of styles just in the meantime. But I said, the best way is to come see me and sit with me. She said, no, I'll do that. But just to get a vibe going. I was like, cool, because she wants to do it clean slate and build it from nothing and turn it into a record. And most of my hit records in my whole career was from coming to see me, sit with me, let's make it from nothing, no drums, no music, no piano, no nothing, and turn it into that. And those were my biggest records. There's something that I could already have a track, oh yeah, let me just play you this. I just never was raised that way. Now in our industry, a lot of people have they call them beat tapes. They might have 30 tracks, and you might say, ooh, I love number 12 and number 6. Let me get those and make a record. That works too, but for me, I think when you organically make it from nothing, it's the best work to put out and to create. And a lot of people can't really do that in this generation because they just want it fast, fast, fast. But where is your creative part gonna really stand out? I think you lose something somewhere in the middle of the whole thing being a good product. So, I don't want food that was already cooked and all you did is heat it up. I know how to heat up leftovers, I want to make something, I want something that was freshly made and put on a plate and you eat it. I just do it musically.
All right. Now, give it up. So, what's something you would have done differently in your career, and what's something you'd never change?
Something I've done differently in my career?
Yeah, it's something you would have done differently.
Something I would have done differently. And what was the other part?
And the other part was, and what's something you'd never change?
Okay. Something I wish I'd done differently would be, ooh, that's a good question. Who asked that question? Raise your hand.
Shout man's over here.
Okay, and matter of fact, before I answer your question, what do you want to do with your life? Speak up, say it loud.
Yeah, my music is about mental health and like living in the present. I actually died during COVID and was revived.
Wow.
I'm trying to remind people like we get a single life. Like there's no reason to not sprint at 1,000 miles to your happiness.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I shoot for with my music as a whole.
That's me. That's me. You and I are in the same type of. Yeah, but what did I say earlier? Way early in the conversation, you gotta have your mental intact because you could lose your mind and really snap and go crazy. We're all capable of that. It's just like a bully messing with you and you get to the point where you just finally snap and you'll beat the bully. It's the same thing. So for me, man, and look, that what I just say, that's a tough question. It's tough but not tough, but one thing I really wouldn't change is the journey I was on, because even all the bumps and bruises I took, it was a test. Like, are you gonna let this? I remember when my grandfather passed. God bless grandfather Bill. He's tattooed on my arm to just carry me on whenever I just feel like I gotta rub that arm to get energy. And my mom was like, "You look a mess. Like, you wearing the same old jeans. You got ink. A pen bust in your pocket and it's all blue ink." She's like, "And you're going to the funeral like that?" I'm like, "Mom, I'm struggling right now." She's like, "Why don't you come home and regroup and then you can go back to New York?" I'm like, "No, I can still feel it." She's like, "Oh, you keep saying you're feeling it in your gut." I'm like, "But I do." And she's like, "Come on, just come home for like a month or two." I said, "No, because in a month or two, the deal's gonna come through because I could feel it." Month later, I got my deal. And like I said, it went up in increments. So if I changed that journey, I may not even be here today, you know? So, like I said, for her to see it, and then later on, she was like, wow, man, you said you was gonna make it. Like, that made me feel good too. My dad and my mom were like, you said you were gonna do it, and you did it. And they appreciated that more because at first they thought I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. They're like, do you know what you're doing? And it's like, yes, it may not make sense to you, but if I say I got it, I got it. And I never let them down from that point. So, so pretty much I wouldn't change anything.
Now, we got time for one more question here. So just an overall question. We talked a lot about like your sound and we talked a lot about Gang Starr, et cetera. What's your process for making music?
My process is really, like I said earlier, to have the artist sit with me. I remember in the 90s, the label would be like, hey, you're going to work with Ice-T. Y'all know who Ice-T is. And he's like, he's coming into town. Why don't y'all go out to a club here? William give you some money, take him to dinner and this and that, and just come back with a good record. That's all. They left the rest to us. And that's how it was. They weren't like, well, you got to make something. They stayed out of our way. They just said, bring back a good record for the money we paid y'all. And they were giving us really good checks back then. Again, I'm in my 20s. And when you're in your 20s making $30,000, $40,000 for one record to make, and then it becomes a hit, that keeps making your stock go up and makes your price go up, but the quality never diminishes, because as the money starts to really start getting up there, you can get mentally to a point where now you feel like, oh, I'm hot just because everybody loves me now, but then the quality of your work starts to diminish because you're not taking it as serious because you have so much money, you feel like you don't have to worry about bills anymore. You're not struggling anymore, and you lose thought and focus on still staying on top. That's why I love, even in sports like a Michael Jordan or Tom Brady. Come on, Tom Brady did it all the way to 42 and got another ring, even when they were like, oh, he left Belichick. He ain't gonna get another ring now that he left the Patriots. And he went to Tampa Bay and got a ring his first go. And that was so dope because he really is so invested in the overall package that makes him great. He never wants to ever lower that shade. He wants the whole sun to shine in every day so that you know I'm a tough person to crack. I'm a tough person to overcome in this competition. And then he shut it down when he felt like it. And that's what I want to be like that as well. So my process is sit with the artist, discuss where we're going with your idea. I'm just going to be the theme music to what you want to do, whether you sing, whether you write, and then I might hear something in what you're talking about that might make me want to, I might come up with a hook. Oh man, you could probably say this. Oh yeah, that is cool. And it's all experimentation, but in the experimentation, you're building a nice masterpiece that is timeless. And again, I go by that word is very important. Make sure it's timeless so it's never old. How many times y'all have heard a record, even if it's when y'all were kids in junior high, and it comes on right now, it's like, oh, this is my shit, you know, and you get happy and you remember where you were. You remember, that's when I played Pop Warner football. Oh man, that's when my little sister used to do this, and oh, that's when my parents took me here. It's that type of thing. So all of that is my process. Build with the artist and then turn it into another monumental statue that goes into your like they say, the notch on the belt. Put another hole in the belt. Mm-hmm. You know.
Please give it up for DJ Premier, y'all. Seriously.
Thank you.
All right. Make sure you spend it. What time you spending tonight?
What time am I spending tonight? 8 o'clock, 8:30.
8:30? 8:30. Come out 8:30, get an education. See y'all later.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.